Hey guys, how's it going? Like Butter here, and it has been a very long time since I've done a build video here on my YouTube channel, and I have just been absolutely loving the Division. The Warlords of New York DLC and also Title Update 7 has really just brought the Division back in a really good state. And I just couldn't be happier with it. So I do want to start making a lot of YouTube content again, but obviously Twitch has been my main stream of income for the last couple of years, so that's going to stay my main priority. But I do want to make really in-depth videos for you guys as well over here on YouTube. So I just want to thank you guys for sticking with me through thick and thin, and my Twitch channel has been growing a ton, so I'm really excited about that. But I'm sure a lot of you guys are just here for the build. So what we're gonna do is we're first gonna go over to the build right away, because I'm sure some of you guys just trust the build and just want to see what it is and start working on pieces. But if you want to see kind of a more in-depth explanation of how to use the build, you can see that after I show the pieces of the build later in the video. Okay, so this is a group Tank True Patriot build. Now, a True Patriot is a gear set. You can obtain these gear pieces from Target Loot. You can also get them in the Dark Zone. But for those of you guys who are new to Division and don't know kind of how target looting works, if you look at your map, we're in New York City right now, so there might not be any gear sets here, but we'll check. If you go to your map and you hit R, I think it's up on the D-pad on console, it's going to show you where all of the loot for the different brand sets and for the different pieces of gear are dropping. Now, of course, there isn't any right here in New York, but if we go and we peep Washington, D.C., and you hit target loot, you will see that gear sets are now in the open world area down here. So this is where you're going to grind. You can do anything like control points or just open world bosses, or just, you know, patrolling enemies. Anything you do in this open world is going to give you gear set drops. Now, keep in mind that doesn't include the missions. The missions have specific brand sets and items tied to them, but that means, like, you know, anything like control points, random missions, anything out in the open, even bounties. So if you want to do your bounties, you can do it there. But right now, the control points are currently bugged where you can't reset them. You're supposed to be able to reset the control points so you can farm those areas as much as you want. They're bugged right now, but that'll probably be fixed in the future. So that's where you're going to first start farming for your True Patriot pieces. Now, True Patriot pieces automatically drop with blues, which is good because this is a full tank build. Now, I feel like I need to just reiterate that this is not a solo build. I will make a version of this for solo play. You can easily do challenging difficulty on solo with this build without a problem, but heroic is rough. I actually got to the boss, the judge boss on the mission that you're going to be seeing a little bit later in this. So with heroic on this build, it is very difficult, but you can do it. Now, I've noticed that I did a lot better with this build with an assault rifle. Now, I think the reason for that is I was able to hit headshots more, which was staggering enemies more, which means I was taking less incoming damage. But this is through and through a team build here. Like, this is for using for helping your entire team. This is for help, like letting other people do the damage. This isn't a damage dealing build. Now, I'm sure there is a slight variation hybrid build that you could run where you run a couple of reds with this build and stack a little bit of crit chance and then use damage talents to kind of up your damage a bit. But this is meant to buff the entire team and to debuff the enemies. So let's go over what True Patriot actually does. So it's going to give you 30% ammo capacity for 2 pieces. 3 pieces is going to give you 30% magazine size, which is why we're using a LMG to get the most value out of that 3 piece. And also for the 4 piece, LMGs are also very good for this part too, because you're going to be constantly shooting enemies. So every 2 seconds, enemies you shoot receive a stacking debuff of red, white, and blue. Red amplifies the enemy's damage taken by 8%, which means if they're stacked, your entire group is going to do 8% more damage to those enemies. For the white debuff, Shooting the enemy repairs you and your allies' armor by 5% once every second. So that means if everybody is shooting enemies that have the white debuff on them, they're going to be getting 5% of their health back every second, which is like constant armor regeneration. The blue debuff decreases enemies' damage dealt by 8%. So that is also going to debuff the enemy to make sure they're doing a lot less damage, which is going to help you because obviously you as a tank, enemies are doing a lot of damage this update. So debuffing as many people as possible is going to make them do a lot less damage, not only to you, but to your entire team. You really got to get out of the mindset of using selfish builds this update because the content is so incredibly hard and is so built around build synergy that you want to have as much build synergy with your group as possible. And full flag, enemies that die while under the effect of all three debuffs create a 5-meter explosion, dealing damage equal to their total health and armor. Explosion damage is reduced on named enemies' deaths, and that's probably for that one mission where you got the tanks kind of all moving by each other. But essentially, if something is debuffed and it dies, if it's near other enemies, it's pretty much going to also kill other enemies around it as well. And since you're using armor on kill with this build with the gunner class, if you happen to kill something and that blows up all the enemies around, you're going to get that 10% armor on kill off of all of those kills. Not only that, since you're stacking armor, you're getting more value out of that armor that you're getting back. So that is incredibly, incredibly strong. So True Patriot is automatically going to roll with armor as a core attribute. And then you also are going to have a secondary attribute and a mod slot, most likely on your stuff. So what I like to use on my mod slots, you'll see here, is incoming repairs, because obviously this build is meant for having a healer as well. Healers are incredibly strong this update, and they are so useful. So having incoming repairs is really nice because that means it's going to increase the amount of heals that you're getting from your healers. Also, explosive resistance is good here, but you could also use health. You could also use hazard protection. Hazard protection is pretty good this update. There's a lot of options here, but the main statistic is you want armor on everything. That is very important because you will see here in a second why you want to stack as much armor as physically possible. So clearly here, this isn't the best. Like I could get like a better roll here. So if I ever get a mask, I'm going to be able to go up like, you know, I think it's 28,000 more armor. I think 170 is max. So that's going to be really helpful. But this is the only face mask I've gotten to drop. So obviously, hopefully in the future, I will get a better one. Okay, so the second True Patriot piece that we're going to use for the is the backpack. And the reason I use the backpack is because the talent on it is going to once again help the entire team. So the patriotic boost is going to up the red debuff to 12%, the white debuff to 8%, and the blue debuff to 12%. So this is going to once again make your team heal for even more. It's going to debuff their damage even more, and it's also going to allow you to do more damage to enemies as well. So that's why I use Patriotic Boost. There's some really cool backpack talents, but I couldn't find any backpack talents that I rather run besides this. So that's kind of why I was using the backpack. So again, armor in your first slot, hazard protection on the backpack. And for my mod, I am using protection from elites. The reason I'm using protection from elites is because we're doing a little bit harder content. The elites are going to be doing the most damage, are going to be alive the longest since they're the tankiest. So being able to have protection from elites here is really helpful. I think this goes up to like, I don't know, like 15% or something, which will be really helpful. But I haven't really been getting a lot of good mods because I think somebody said that they're bugged, and I think they got fixed this morning. So I haven't really had a chance to farm too many mods, but pretty much that's what you're going to run there. And then you're going to use the True Patriot gloves. These True Patriot gloves are dropped with armor regeneration, which in my opinion, you want to get as much armor regeneration on your gear as possible. Armor regeneration is very strong this update because it's just constant heal over time, whether you're getting shot, whether you're in combat, whether you're behind cover, it doesn't matter. This is constant HP that you're just going to be recovering from your armor. And this stacks with the armor that you're going to be gaining, not only from getting kills, but also from shooting enemies that have the white debuff. So this is really nice to have because it's going to make your effective health go higher, and the higher your effective health is, the more you can tank for your team, which then in return allows them to do more damage. So this is very, very, very important to get armor regeneration here. If you don't have armor regeneration, it's still okay. I would just suggest getting armor regeneration on everything that you possibly can. So you can see here on my knee pads, still don't have a max armor roll, so there is room for improvement with this build, but I did roll armor regeneration on my knee pads. So getting armor regeneration on as many of those pieces is good. I'm also using, and I'm waiting to show the exotic chest piece last, but the holster that I'm using is obviously one piece Gila. Gila gives you 5% total armor, so this is a really good piece to have here. This happened to roll with armor regeneration, but it's not max, but it did roll with max explosive resistance, which explosive resistance, hazard protection, that kind of stuff is going to be helpful because you're going to be taking most of the damage for your group. You're going to most likely try to be in front while everyone kind of sits in the back. The healer just sits in the back and heals you. So, you know, you're going to be able to tank a lot of damage with this build. So just the 5% armor just amplifies the armor that you have a little bit. Obviously, percentage armor is always going to be better when you're stacking as much armor as possible. And this is the most important part of the build. This is the, I don't know how to say this, tardigrade, I don't know how to say that, but this is the new exotic chest piece that they added with this update that is incredibly strong. Like, I can't stress enough how unbelievably strong this chest piece is. So it ends up rolling with max armor automatically. And then the attributes are going to be random. So you could get explosive resistance. You could get armor regeneration. I got armor regeneration on here. I think this rolls with other stuff, but you can't recalibrate exotic pieces. So whatever you get is just going to have to do. And then I have protection from elites on my mod slot. The talent of this chest piece: whenever you or any ally's armor breaks, they gain 80% of your armor as bonus armor for 10 seconds. Cooldown per ally is 45 seconds. Killing an enemy with your specialization weapon removes this cooldown for all allies. Now, what this is basically doing is giving your entire team Path of the Nomad from Division 1. If their armor breaks, they're going to get 80% of your armor, not theirs. So if they're running like a DPS build where they have like barely any armor, or they're running a healer build where they can't really spec into armor, they're going to be very tanky because they are getting 80% of 1.7 million armor. I can't stress enough how unbelievably strong this is for a safety net, because it allows your DPSers, it allows your healers to play a little bit more aggressive and to output more damage. So you combine that amazing amount of armor that they're going to have with all the armor regeneration from shooting allies and the healer doing its job healing, because like I can't stress enough how unbelievably strong healers are this update. They are going to stay alive forever. Now, the cool thing about this is if they pop, right, they take a bunch of damage, maybe an enemy like flanks, they do a bunch of damage, they get 80% of their armor. 80% of your armor for 10 seconds. Well, the cool thing is if they actually use an armor kit, it keeps the bonus armor, so they're going to have like so much armor, and it'll give them time to kind of reposition and get out of the way. But the crazy thing is that you actually can reset the cooldown of that pop just by getting a single kill with your specialization weapon. What's even more insane is that if, say, 3 of your teammates, all of their armors pop, right? It gives you gives them 80% of your armor. One specialization kill refreshes it for all allies. So essentially, you can pretty much just always get 80% of your armor all the time. But you do have to be careful with this, because if your health is really, really low, what will happen is if you get shot by a shotgunner, and since shotguns do pellet damage, if you get hit with one of the pellets is enough to kind of just pop your armor. If the other pellets are enough to kill you, you'll just die and it won't actually proc. So you got to keep an eye on your health and make sure your health is decently high. Don't think of it as a guaranteed safety net, because I've had a lot of situations where I've just taken so much damage so fast that I've just completely flopped over without my chest piece proccing. But dude, this chest piece is amazing. It is so good. Now you're probably asking, where would you farm for this chest piece? So this chest piece drops off of True Sun bosses. The best place, in my opinion, to get this chest piece is this mission right here. I'm going to show you in 1 second. So this mission down here is called Lincoln Memorial. It's very fast. It has multiple True Sun bosses at the end, and you can get it pretty easily there. It's a 7.5% drop rate on heroic. I think on challenging it's a 5%, and on hard it's 3, on normal it's 2, and I think on story mode it's a 1% chance, something like that. There's some sort of variation there where the higher difficulties are going to give you higher chance to get that drop. But if you get a really good team together and you're grinding through this mission on heroic, since it is pretty easy, you're going to get that to drop. I even had a couple of people who were in my stream and you know, watching me play with the chest piece. They went and they got it on their first drop. You know, it's complete RNG. It may take you 1 run, it may take you 100 runs. That's kind of just how it is, but it is a higher drop rate than Barrett's chest piece, so you guys don't have to worry about that. I'm pretty sure Barrett's chest piece was 0.5% drop rate, which is just bonkers. But yeah, you can get through that pretty easily, and heroic's going to up those chances. Now, we skipped over the guns here. The reason I skipped over the guns is because I think that these can kind of be interchangeable here. Like, I think there's other options, but the reason I use an LMG, specifically the Negev, is because it was incredibly overpowered. It had like 70,000 total base damage, which absolutely made 0 sense considering I was running 0 reds. But it was bugged, you know, so it's down to 47k, 48-ish k. And this is interchangeable. You can try to use other weapons here if you'd like. I was testing this M60, the named M60 that's called the Good Times, that has perfect fast hands. There's a lot of options here, but the reason I use the Carnage, which has perfect sadist, is because that extra 25% damage to bleeding enemies comboed with your Stinger Hive, it allows you to do a little more damage, because again, you need other sources of damage with this build because you're not speccing into any damage at all, right? So it just gives you an option to kind of help your team and allow you to be able to get a couple extra kills and do a little bit more damage than you are with how tanky you're building. So realistically, the whole point of the build is not to do damage, but to just mark as many enemies as you can. But the cool thing is that your damage is going to get carried through the True Patriot pops, and it's also going to get carried through your skills, because for whatever reason, the Stinger Hive level 1 without any skill tiers is really, really strong. It does a lot of damage, and also the procced bleed allows you to do more damage with Sadist, which is nice. So the idea is you kind of just want to throw your Stinger Hive down, and it shoots up in the air, and it's going to CC a lot of enemies, which is why your skills that you're running are meant for as much crowd control as possible, which is like stuns and slows and that kind of stuff. So that will allow your team to do more damage. It will also keep them from doing damage, which will allow you to tank more and also be able to output a decent amount of damage as well. Now, for my secondary weapon, I am using the Negev as well. But you could probably use a couple different things here. Now, you could use the Pestilence. I think the Pestilence is pretty strong this update. If you guys didn't know what happened, hits apply a debuff, dealing 100% weapon damage over 10 seconds. This stacks up to 50 times. Whenever an enemy dies with this debuff, all stacks are transferred to a nearby enemy within 25 meters. So what you can do is you can kind of just keep stacking this on people, and it's going to help you do damage. It's going to help your group kind of focus fire on certain enemies. It kind of works like Malzahar's, I don't know if you guys played League of Legends, Malzahar's E, where it's kind of like, you know, got that void debuff, and if you kill it, it jumps to something else. That's basically how the Pestilence works. You want to focus the thing that's debuffed or that has the poison on it, and then it basically just jumps to other enemies. So but I am using a regular Negev because I like the Negev. It's a new weapon. It's really good. This talent here, Vindictive, is very, very good for group play. Remember, you're trying to figure out a way to not only buff yourself, but buff your entire team. Now, this talent has Vindictive on it, or this gun has Vindictive, which killing an enemy with a status effect applied grants you and all your allies within 15 meters, which is pretty large. So as long as you have your team nearby, 15% crit chance and 15% crit damage for 20 seconds. Now you could refresh this every single time, which means the idea is with the gameplay is you want to be using your primary weapon, right? You're shooting, you're doing damage, you're doing damage, you're doing damage. And then once they're applied under a status effect, you can switch to your second weapon, get the kill, give your entire team 15% crit chance and crit damage. Then you can switch back to your main weapon, and that main weapon will also have more damage on bleeding enemies, and you also be able to proc bleed on every third kill. And so essentially you're just applying status effects to everybody, and you're allowing that damage to kind of make up for your lack of damage with how many blues you're running. Vindictive procking will also make up for your lack of damage a bit. So that's also good. You can also synergize this with some other crit damage. Like for example, I have crit damage rolled on this weapon, which in theory wouldn't be that good, but because of Vindictive, it makes it a little more viable. So your crits are going to be doing a lot more damage. And yeah, it basically just allows you to do as much damage as you can while not speccing into any damage on your build whatsoever. Also, for attachments on your weapons, you basically just want to put crit chance on everything. And then for the extended mag, you want to use the plus 50 rounds that you unlocked in the gunner specialization tree. So for my secondary weapon, I use the shock trap because it's just another form of CC. You guys can experiment with some other stuff. I like the shock trap a lot. It kind of just throws shock little mines everywhere, and the NPCs are just really stupid and they kind of just walk over them, and it allows you and your team to kind of focus fire down an enemy. It also gives you another form of crowd control, which obviously will allow you to pop Vindictive more often. And also for your grenade, you're going to use the foam grenade, which is the specialist gunner. So you are using the gunner specialization because it has the best tree for this kind of build. This grenade is going to just basically lock up enemies with like a foam AoE, and that's going to give you another way to proc Vindictive for your team. So this build is very, very, very strong. And I think that this is one of the best tank builds out right now for team damage and team synergy. And obviously, if you want to run a True Patriot solo build, there's going to be some changes that you're going to make to this, but it's still going to be pretty similar. This True Patriot build is pretty straightforward, and it's very, very strong. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. You can use whatever pistol you want. It really doesn't matter. But if you did enjoy the video, be sure to drop the video a like. I'm going to show you some footage here of me just playing solo. But remember, this is kind of a group build, but I didn't have anybody on to kind of show off the build. But if you watch me on Twitch, twitch.tv/LikeButterLive, you'll be seeing me use this build with groups and being able to just kind of tank enough damage and allow them to kind of output damage without having to worry about dying because of my chest piece. It can be very strong for clearing heroic content. So thanks for watching this video. If you guys enjoyed, be sure to drop the video a like, and I will talk to you guys in the next one. Take care, everybody.
Intercepted. Agent, thank God you're here. Listen, I know you won't believe me, but I'm on your side. I've been undermining Keener's operation for months. I infiltrated his network. I don't think the Rikers suspect it yet, but I fucked up. I think he's onto me. I'm leaving the cafeteria.
I can smell his bullshit from Agent. Be careful, Agent.
See you on the other side!
Wait, I can explain. No!
signs detected.
You shouldn't trust Isaac.
Analyzing
It's
data.
not that hard to fool.
Positive identification. Theo Parnell. Rogue agent deceased.
This doesn't make any sense.